Do you hear the bells? Every hour on the hour.
Right beside a church.
Oh, it's just like right around the corner. For folks who are just jumping on, I'm just going to wait about 1 more minute before we get started to just make sure we have maximum audience levels before we begin. But thanks for joining us, and just 1 more minute, we'll get started. Okay, it is 6:03, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Ari. I'm the Chief Curator at Union Hall. My pronouns are she, they. And we are here tonight for the Perception Shift Curatorial Talk with Amy Hoagland, who is the Curator of Perception Shift, part of our Rough Gems program. Quickly, I just want to give a little brief intro on Union Hall for those of you who might be new to our program. We are a nonprofit arts exhibition space in downtown Denver. We are inside the Coloradan, and Rough Gems is our signature program. Every year we have 3 curatorial pop-ups that are 3 weeks each, and those come from an open call of proposals from emerging curators. This program is generously sponsored by the Coloradan Community Foundation, the Andy Warhol Foundation for the Visual Arts, Colorado Creative Industries, and there's one other one that I'm missing, Bonfils Stanton Foundation. Thank you to all of our sponsors for making this possible. And I'm going to go ahead and start off by turning it over to Amy, who's going to walk us through her project, her exhibition, and from there we will go into some Q&A. For those of you who are tuning in on YouTube, you can put you have for Amy in the YouTube chat, and we will touch on those towards the end of the presentation. So Amy, go ahead and take it away.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to start by sharing my screen. And hey everyone, I'm Amy Hoagland. I am an MFA candidate at CU Boulder. And this is Perception Shift. So, the inspiration for this exhibition comes from my interest in how over the past few years have instilled many different perception shifts and how we respond to the world around us. The works in this exhibition all instill perception shifts in varying ways through their materiality and concept. In Perception Shift, projected light, shadow, ceramic, graphite, glass, and metal work alongside each other to shift our way of perceiving. Together, the works liberate us from expectations by manipulating the senses or surprising them. Each manifests perception shift in different and illuminating ways. I wanted to curate something that could potentially inspire hope and excitement during this strange time that we live in. That was a huge part of the inspiration behind Perception Shift. I feel that the way each individual artist in this exhibition works with material and tricks the eye of the viewer points at the way that things are not always as they seem, which is hopeful, I think, to help inspire more positive and creative ways of seeing and experiencing our future. And so to start off, I'll go through each artist and just introduce their bio, just to give just like an overview of who is in this exhibition. This is Hala Abubaker, she, her. Hala was born in Jordan, and is of Palestinian descent. She currently resides in Athens, Ohio. She obtained her BA in Visual Arts from the University of Jordan in 2013 and is currently pursuing her MFA degree in Sculpture and Expanded Media at Ohio University. Her work focuses on the human condition, from social identity and status, or the lack of, to post-colonialist theories and social dynamics. She uses her work to shift perceptions and assert connection to the collective consciousness. She has participated in exhibitions and residencies in Jordan, Europe, and the United States. Kimberley Bianca, she, her, is an Australian media artist and community events organizer based here in Denver. She specializes in developing participatory mixed media reality projects that bring socially engaged practice to performance and multimedia. Her PhD activities at CU Boulder include workshops, site-specific electronic arts, design, performance forms, and platform design. Bianca has been a practicing freelance artist, facilitator, and media designer, BJ, and audiovisual technician since 2010. And she will be doing a performance next Friday the 4th, which we'll talk about a bit later. Alli Lemon, she, they, is a Memphis-born, Colorado-based artist. She holds a BFA in arts practices from the University of Memphis. She is currently pursuing an MFA at the University of Colorado Boulder with a concentration in painting and drawing. In addition to traditional drawing materials, Lemon incorporates custom stickers, lenticular printing, and collage into her drawings. Andrea de Leon, she, her, is a Mexican-American sculptor that focuses her craft in knife making, jewelry and related education, glass blowing, and iron casting. She obtained her BFA in studio arts from the University of Texas and has received awards to attend residencies in glass at Oxbow School of Art and Penland School of Crafts. She has worked and shown internationally and currently teaches metalsmithing at Austin Community College. Andrea was a founding member of Icosa Collective and continues to evolve her sculptural practice in Austin, Texas. Natalie Thedford, she, her, is an artist from East Tennessee. She produces works composed of intricate textures inspired by her early exposure to manipulating fibers. Learning these techniques always involved an intimate interaction with women in her life. Natalie has a BFA in 3D art from the University of Tennessee. She has exhibited her work nationally through Tennessee and Northern California. Natalie is currently pursuing her Master's of Fine Arts in Art Practices from the University of Colorado Boulder. As Natalie is from East Tennessee, two other artists are regionally from the South, as well as myself, being from Louisville, Kentucky. Just as mentioned before, Alli is from Tennessee, and Andrea lives and works in Austin, Texas. I think it's unique to have so many voices from the South in this exhibition and that they bring distinct ways of perceiving. Initially walking into the Union Hall space, you're greeted with these forms. This work is from Natalie Thedford and here is called French forms. At first glance, these forms may seem to be cut from a colored leather fabric, though they are created from fired clay painted with acrylic. Natalie works with the quilt and woman's handicrafts as objects to push back against patriarchal norms. She creates these three-dimensional quilts of clay and paper to deny the intended function of the object to provide warmth and comfort. This shift in materials invites consideration of alternative functions of the quilt and challenges the expectation that women ought to be similarly warm and comforting. The textures in Natalie's work contain enough variability to express the slow work of hands as opposed to machines, emphasizing the time and labor that goes into each object. As you walk past the entryway, Andrea de Leon's work Iris is positioned near Natalie's wall installation. Andrea de Leon's work examines the nature of reality, including the relationship between mind and matter, substance and value, and the essence of our universe and our place within it. Iris expresses a distilled concept of how light transforms into information in our minds. The metal structure serves as an aperture. The lines define the void of a lens where light passes through. Behind it is a membrane of a hazel iris, representing the tissues and fibers that determine how much light enters the retina. Subtly, the mirror backing absorbs and reflects back the light coming through the piece, exposing and inverting what we see and simultaneously cannot see. The work takes a metaphysical approach to reveal something about the viewer, ultimately grasping an understanding of what makes us human. And this piece is really fun to go up and try to like actually see the mirror. It's a little tricky, but then once you see it, you can't unsee the mirror, which I think is very like powerful in thinking about how the eye works. She couldn't be forgiven. She had done as she liked, as an amalgam of materials collaged and sewn back together. And this is a work from Natalie Thedford. It includes paper, ceramics, graphite, oil pastel, thread, acrylic paint, laser jet printed images. The text was inspired by Elena Ferrante's novel, The Story of a New Name. Textures were collected from Thedford's environment: laundry baskets, box fans, and city drains. Materials have been combined in unexpected ways. Paper has been cut into strips and sewn back together, along with ceramic pieces made of textures inspired by women's traditional role of manipulating fibers. Through subverting the function of the quilt, this work is concerned with the perception of women breaking apart from what is traditionally expected of them in a patriarchal society. Thedford's act of weaving unconventional quilting materials questions what is expected and connects to larger questions of understanding of our own positionality within Earth. And this is a detail image of this piece. You can subtly see the ceramic forms which are collaged atop the paper. Pictured here is the projection work of Kimberley Bianca in conversation with Alli Lemon's drawing. The work pictured here from Kimberley is called Morphing Chaos. It responds to the most abundant thing that connects all living and non-living things, space. And I'll show a short clip of the projection, but you have to come see the rest in person. Kimberley designed these visuals in Touch Designer, a visual programming language for interactive multimedia content. When creating this work, Kimberley worked to the other artists in the exhibition for inspiration for the imagery, which I just love this. So the imagery is like a thread that connects all of the other works together in the exhibition. And if you watch this enough, you can really see connections between similar patterns and elements within the exhibition. The visuals collapse over themselves, are layered, and reinvent space. They're almost collaged in a similar way to the other works in the exhibition were materially created. Here's a closer look at Alli Lemon's work, Idle Aura. Alli Lemon is also interested in unveiling our place within the universe through detailed drawings that confuse one's perception of how they are made. Lemon works in a circular process that involves creating scans of previous drawings, printing them, and collaging the printed imagery together. In revisiting these images, they are able to have a conversation with themselves across time, collapsing what is new and old. In addition to the printed drawings, Lemon transforms the past drawings into sticker embellishments layered atop each work. The process is not planned. It is a continual flow of materials, ideas, and techniques that folds into and over itself. Symmetry in the circle is present in these works. I love the inspiration behind this particular work in a similar way to how Kimberley collapses space with imagery inspired by works in this exhibition. Alli works with imagery from her mentor idol, Beth Edwards. A drawing was scanned from this mentor and enlarged to create the background you see here. So Alli's idol's work creates the aura for the piece, the surroundings. The circles on top of the images represent tiny sparks of inspiration that Alli has had in their studio, which they attribute to Beth, whose support made them feel confident in pursuing art. And here, Idle Aura is in conversation with Andrea de Leon's piece, Parabolic Reflector. The circles behind Andrea's work were a curatorial decision to help Andrea's Black framework pop off the gray walls at Union Hall. Circles are a common thread throughout the exhibition, along with geometric angular forms. As many of Andrea's works are interested in the perception of light, I think this positioning is fitting as the sculpture and the circle allude directly to an eye. This piece, Parabolic Reflector, is made from steel, wood, copper, sterling silver, and black cubic zirconia. Parabolic reflector is inspired by telescopic optics and is concerned with how we receive information about our external environments. The metal centerpiece alludes to an iris. We receive visual information due to a similar phenomenon of light being bent in reverse and corrected by our brains. As you turn the corner, you approach Andrea's and Alli's pieces positioned near each other in conversation. I'm excited about how Andrea and Alli have so many parallels with their interest in exploring our position within the universe. Alli Lemon's work, Light Center, pictured here on the right, is a layered and collage drawing coated in resin. Here, Alli works with embellishments in a new way, using vintage coasters that allude to the sticker embellishments in the original Light Center work, which we'll view in a minute. This work collapses the old and new in Alli's studio practice. Andrea's shadow is situated beside Light Center 2. Shadow contains the center of one of the world's most conductive materials, copper. The idea alludes to the potential energy within all matter as a focal point. The layer it is embedded in comes from an abstracted image of a neuron creating a type of Rorschach image. And so here's more of a straight-on view of shadow. And you can see that reflected neuron form. And then a straight-on view of Light Center 2. And you can see the new found embellishments and then the re-collaged sticker embellishments in the center. This piece is called Light Center, and it is a work from Alli. It's inspired by Alli's experience in a metaphysics graduate seminar. Alli's teacher would make these strange graphs to make difficult concepts more clear. Alli would screenshot these graphs and then use them for compositions. This is a form from a graph of the setup of a double slit experiment that has become really decorative, as if it's a religious relic. These two works are from Andrea de Leon, Tower on the right and Chromium Cage on the left. These works combine glass and metal in similar but distinct ways. Tower is inspired by how throughout history, cultures around the world have engineered different types of obelisks, dedicating important and often divine concepts. On this intimate scale, the tower is meant to be a kind of monument that exposes the relationship between the viewer and its surroundings. By exaggerating the properties of the materials, the audience becomes aware of their position in space. If you walk around the piece closely, the glass reflects light, refracting all of the colors of the spectrum and distorting them according to your own personal perspective. This piece is a small tower dedicated to the awareness of oneself in space. And Chromium Cage transforms negative space and creates relationships between interior and exterior. The work fluctuates between opposing lines of bondage and projection. Simultaneously, this object is also showing that seemingly opposing materials are often more similar than they appear. The color that makes the glass is actually a metal. The color that gives the glass its color is metal, including the inside of the piece. And then here's another image of those two pieces together. A reflection from Alli's Light Center 2 leads in the Hala Abubaker's video series, Moving Light Sculptures. Hala Abubaker combines unexpected materials to shift perception. Abubaker's work, Moving Light Sculptures, investigates what can exist beyond the objects, specifically in the reflections of our perceptions of objects. Hala is interested in deconstructing the conditions of perception to reach new realities, specifically in connection to the perception of identity. To create these moving light sculptures, Abubaker mixes oil and water, two materials where a connection is not physically possible, but in this artistic practice, they unite. Oil and water affect the speed in which light can pass through them, which causes these disruptions that you can see in visual imagery, creating their own reality as one views the videos of light passing through the liquids. The moving images on the monitor screens are reflections and projections of the original liquids. Here we are looking at the video titled Light Cloth, where reflections of the oil and water create a DNA-like form as they mix together. And so these works are situated beside each other, and they're all expressing different dialogues between oil and water. From left to right, on the left is oil sheet, olive oil is in the center, and light cloth on the end. And here's a still image from olive oil. Rounding out the gallery, one approaches the stunningly illuminated work subtly positioned on a shelf. Again, confusing our sight and sense of touch, Natalie Thedford transforms a pattern inspired from quilt making into fired clay. This piece is titled Woven Landscape. The work in Perception Shift is connected through its exploration of reality and ability to alter the gaze of the viewer, to challenge us to perceive differently and to free ourselves from expectation. Perception is activated in distinct ways throughout the show. Thedford's ceramic sculpture confuse the eyes and provoke a sense of touch. Bianca's projections allow one to visualize space in a new way. Abubaker plays with our sense of sight as we try to decipher the phenomena in her projections and sculpture. Lemon and De Leon's work point to the metaphysical, investigating ourselves beyond our earthly existence. Perception Shift seeks to guide viewers through an exploration of their own realities to provoke a deeper understandings of ourselves and our place within this world. And so I'll end there.
I just realized I was on mute and I was about to go to talk. Thank you so much for walking us through the exhibition. It's so helpful to see in more depth sort of how all the works come together, and congratulations on putting together a beautiful show. I have a number of questions that I'd like to go through and discuss in more detail, but just as a reminder to everyone who's watching, you're welcome to send your questions for Amy in the YouTube chat as well. So I guess just starting out with you, since you gave us a lot of background info on the artists, you are an artist as well. You're currently wrapping up your MFA at CU Boulder, and you have done a number of curatorial projects in the past as well. Can you talk about your personal art practice a little bit, and also what other creative ventures you've been involved in?
Yeah, within my own practice, I'm really interested in the human interconnection with the landscape. And so with that, I create sculptural installations that often use light and shadow reflection with materials such as glass and metal. And I'm just really interested also as an artist in perception. So that's why this whole exhibition has been such a treat to work with other artists that are interested in perception. I'm really curious about how perception shifts our relationship with the environment, and thinking about that in new ways. Yeah, though the exhibition is not inherently environmentally focused, I'm very curious about how perception plays into our connection with this earth and how this might shift towards new and positive perspectives. So that was like a huge impetus for the inspiration of creating this exhibition.
Yeah, I liked that you mentioned also, most of the artists are women or non-binary and also are from the South. And a lot of the materials that they choose to work with tend to be things that have a connection to craft or craft practices. And with that also comes, some of this stuff that's more elemental, like clay, like fabric, like water and oil. And I think that there's a pretty clear through line but from your work as well. But I think it's neat to give folks that context, because I've found that through the Rough Gems program, a lot of the time, when artists are working as curators, they will choose to find a way to sort of explore things that are relevant to their own work or research, by finding like-minded people. And yeah, it just feels like a little bit of a peek inside your head in a way to see this exhibition come together. Well, and so thinking a little bit more about materials, all of the materials and techniques that are used by the artists are perception shifters, as you would say. And I was wondering too, like, I know you mentioned this with a couple specific artists, but it tends to tie into identity. And so I'm interested if you can talk a little bit more about that idea.
Yeah, the materials connection to identity. Is that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. So Natalie, her work is like very much tied to that. I think it's just really interesting regionally, being from the South and also working with quilts to sort of defy these social norms, working with what should be like a malleable fabric and making this tough and durable material really has a lot of meaning behind it. And yeah, I just think I can like run through all the artists, really like collaging all of the like inspirational images from all of the artists together, materially, like works as a thread that connects all the pieces. Alli works in a very collage-based process that's circular in nature, and really like shifts. It's like a kind of impossible to understand how they make their work, but once you hear about it, it makes more sense. But it's also connecting to this deeper understanding of like how we exist in this earth, and there's so many layers to that, and we can't fully comprehend it. And Andrea working with very elemental materials, glass and metal, often reflecting imagery and being very geometric in nature, but directly connected to the eye and the iris and the way that we perceive information as humans, and how what we see is like literally reflected in reverse to our brains to understand it. So that's very interesting that she can work with that visually as a sculpture. Hala mixing oil and water, which are two materials that should not connect, but they do within her videos. And I think it's like a very dramatic stance on identity and how things that seem like they should not connect at all can make this really beautiful connection. Yeah.
That was a good summary. I feel like it's clear in these last couple of questions how you selected the individual artists for the exhibition and how they all work to the larger concept. But can you talk a little bit more about how you selected individual works and what that process was like for you?
Yeah, so the artists, just as you said, like they were all working with perception, so that was like easy to find. It was like a point of connection between everyone, but they all work with perception in very different ways. So that was very fun.
And some of them even have very like distinct bodies of work. Like they have multiple different ways in which they're working, like different materials, different concepts, but go to this larger kind of point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so choosing the works, I was thinking a lot about layering and texture. So that's how a lot of the pieces were selected, but they're all very heavily geometric and they connect to each other that way. So you see a lot of circles, a lot of angular geometric forms that are related to each other visually, formally, as well as through concept.
I'm going down my list. Yeah, this is a good segue. Could you talk a little bit more about your vision for the experience of the exhibition space and sort of how the layout came together, how the sort of overall flow came together through the curation process?
Yeah, this was so fun. Union Hall has like such an amazing space that can transform in so many different ways. So it was really fun to like envision what this could be. And what for me, I really wanted to create an intimate space for the viewer. So where you walk through hallways and corners to visit the works individually, but can see the connection. They're all like in relationship to each other, where some pieces are situated cornered together, so they're directly talking to each other. Um, that's really what I was thinking a lot about, and that came through like visual planning in advance, but then also when it came to install, there was a little bit of shifting of just figuring out like the perfect format for how things should be talking to each other and how the viewer will experience the works.
Yeah, I feel like the flow is very good in the way that they're that sort of connect and link together, but they're spread out enough throughout the space that there's always these connections that you kind of have to keep moving to make. And yeah, I really enjoyed the layout that you selected, which like ended up varying pretty greatly from what you initially proposed. And it was really fun to see, like, as the work selections were narrowed down, how it changed and shifted. A good time to talk about programming. So in addition to this curatorial talk, we have one other program that will be taking place during Perception Shift. And that is a performance called Morphing Chaos by Disaster Girl. Can you tell us a little bit more about this program and what folks can expect if they're going to attend?
Yeah, I'm super excited about this one. It's happening on Friday, next Friday, so please come. Kimberley Bianca is performing as Disaster Girl, and Kimberly will be connecting the performance as Disaster Girl to her piece, Morphing Chaos. So viewers will be invited to bring a small object or rock or stone where they will be able to come up to a sensor and that has a microphone and tap the object to the sensor, which will trigger the imagery to shift based on the way in which they activate the sensor. So it'll be an interactive performance where Disaster Girl will have all of the setup laid out. You'll be able to see sort of the magic happening and ask Disaster Girl questions as it unfolds. And this performance is connected to the bigger idea behind Morphing Chaos, which is connecting space, thinking about space and how it exists around us and connects all living and non-living things. So through tapping this object to the sensor, you'll kind of get a better understanding of yourself within space. So it'll be super fun and neat. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how it unfolds. And yeah, just as a reminder to everybody, you can check out more information about that event on our website at unionhallddenver.com. So on our, or .org rather, I'm sorry. And it's on our exhibition calendar page. You can learn more about the time and all of those important dates and details. Just as a reminder, as we're continuing to go through some questions that I wrote, we can have you submit through the YouTube chat. And I have about 2 more questions for Amy, and then we'll turn it over to some audience questions. So what was the experience like producing Perception Shift as part of Rough Gems? And do you have any advice for other artists or curators or people who want to experiment with curation about the Rough Gems program?
Yeah, this has been such an amazing experience, and I will just like take this as a moment to say thank you to Ari and Jess and Emma and Robert for all being super helpful and amazing to work with. Yeah, it's just the whole process has felt very streamlined and enjoyable and not stressful. So yeah, my biggest takeaway from the whole experience was learning like Ari sent out very distinct deadlines as we went along, and it made the whole process not stressful for me as a curator, and also for the artist, which I think is super important to just balance things. So I love that. And then secondly, like thinking, so advice, yeah, apply, just, I think apply, like even if you don't think you'll get it, I think what comes through is that if you really believe in an idea, it shows on paper. So if you have an idea that you're really passionate about, it comes through. And then secondly, I would say to, come visit the exhibitions, come see Perceptions Shift, come see Made Known, come see Virga. The layout will probably transform dramatically for these exhibitions, and the space is so dynamic that it can do so many different things, and that's what's really exciting about it. So that could give you some really great ideas for your potential proposal. Yeah, so that would be my main advice.
Thank you. Yeah, that's super good advice. I always am interested to see how, creative people from different disciplines interpret the prompt of Rough Gems. And like I said previously, I find that a lot of the time people who are artists find a way to like put, people in dialogue who have a similar background to them. But, we're also looking for things like film screening series or, more like uses of the space that push outside of a fine art exhibition. And I love to see exhibitions also that include a lot of more like digital media works, as well as, 2D, 3D, more traditional fine art objects. So it's been super cool seeing your proposal develop, and yeah, the process kind of taking it from a written blurb to is really a special experience. So thanks for all your hard work.
Yeah, it's like amazing. Like it was like October I found out about it, and now we're like a week into the exhibition, so it goes fast.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll save these last couple because it looks like we have a couple coming in from the chat. So Robert asks for Amy if you experienced any new realizations around the work or even your initial curatorial concept through the curatorial and installation process.
Yes, definitely. I didn't realize so there was like a visual connection and conceptual connection between all of the works, but I didn't realize how much a lot of the processes were really related. So Natalie working with collage materials that are also printed and scanned, and some are drawn. You can't really decipher which is which. And Alli works in a similar process there, where they're printing images as well, and of as mentioned in Idol Aura, her mentor. So it gets layered as well. So I thought that was very interesting. Also, like these reflection practices between Andrea and Alli, there's a lot of images that are bent and folded onto themselves. And I had known that a little bit at first, but not until I really started talking to the artists and learning more about their works. And then, yeah, also Kimberly's piece, really like actually incorporating imagery from the other artists. I think that really ties to how Alli was working with her mentor. And then Hala working with very like distinct materials that are not meant to go together also connects back to Natalie working, making, fabric from clay. So I think it's all very interestingly intertwined, and I've learned so much about that through the process, and it's been really a treat.
Absolutely. I have another question from Griffin. There seems to be somewhat of a biological theme underneath the theme of perception, a neuron DNA. Was this by happenstance, or do you think there is a more intrinsic link between perception and biology?
I'm not a scientist, but yeah, I think it's totally related. Like, I think the way that we perceive the world is very much tied to our brains and how we think, which is a biological factor. So yeah, we all perceive differently, and that was a huge part of the inspiration behind the show, because we don't really like visually can tell how everyone sees differently. Like it's not inherently apparent because we all have our own individual way of seeing, which is why I thought like I don't know, it was almost like 10 years ago, the blue shirt or blue shirt gold dress thing that went around where
yeah.
people could tell the difference in color. But everybody was so shocked that everybody saw something. Some people saw the same thing and some people saw different things. Some people could see both. So I think it's really interesting to think about how we all see the world in a slightly different way.
Yeah, that's a really good kind of pop culture comparison, but I guess it proves in a way like we don't fully understand. There's a lot that we don't fully understand about how our brains work or how our vision works. And in that space, there's still so much like wonder that can happen. Because like though we have the scientific ability to understand things in a certain amount of depth, there's these things that are completely unexplainable or are explainable, but that it still doesn't resolve how like perplexing something is. And that blue gold dress is totally one of those. I hope everyone knows what we're talking about. Let me pull from one of my questions because that's all I have so far. Final call for anyone who wants to get a question in for Amy. Where did my list go? Oh no, there it is. Oh yeah, so in your initial proposal and also in your curatorial essay, you sort of vaguely referenced COVID, which obviously, you know, it's on all of our minds. It's connected to what we're all working on in a way right now. And so I'm just curious, you know, COVID has changed the shape of many things in the art world. And I wonder how it shifted your practice as an artist, as a curator, and sort of how you see that as connected to the theme of perception or perception shifts.
For sure. As an artist, I found myself really wanting to create work outside. The stagnation of the indoors during the pandemic really created a push and desire to work outside and to create more specific work. I've been doing a series of sculptures like outside in the woods, in the Cowwood Forest in relationship to the burn scar area. And then as a curator, since my art is pretty environmentally focused, which at times can be kind of depressing and overwhelming, I wanted to curate something that could potentially inspire hope and excitement during this time. So that's what it was, a huge impetus for this exhibition, with works that aren't, you know, directly tied to the environment, but I think have the ability to shift the way that we experience and see this world.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the biological kind of theme as well as the environmental theme are, it seems hyper present, especially like learning more about the materials and like where the artists are coming from. But it makes me think of like the idea of intergenerational trauma and how like we don't always know necessarily what is like living in our biology as a result of like stress factors that people our ancestors experienced. And so I think similarly, you know, this theme of perception shift, it can be very connected to our environment or how we were raised, or there's so many factors that do relate to identity, but also like environment and biology very much so are a part of that. Another question from the chat. How do you think a visitor's perspective might shift after leaving the show? From Dennis.
I think, you know, that's a question per the visit. I just think everybody has like such a different way of seeing that it's really hard to know what could happen. But I hope that the work inspires a just new way of seeing and a new way of thinking, because so many of the materials really trick your eye. So it's very unexpected. So like through that trickery, it hopefully inspires just new ideas and ways of experiencing the world, because now you've experienced something that was more unexpected and you can sort of visualize things from that in a new way.
Yeah, I'm interested to see too how the folks who attend the program with Kimberly / Disaster Girl would answer that question from Dennis, because I think the participatory nature of that will be likely to shift perspectives also in a way that, you know, we hope the exhibition does too, but that participatory thing does kind of like take it to a new space. And I'm super excited to see how that is received.
Yeah, it'll be, you know, embodied, because you will be working with your body and interacting directly. So I think that will even be more powerful, and I'm excited for that.
I am looking through my questions here. Are there any upcoming projects that you would like to plug for you personally or for any of the artists that are in the exhibition?
Yeah, definitely. So coming up, I will be showing with Alli Lemon for the CU Boulder MFA thesis exhibition at the CU.
That's a pretty fun crossover from
Yeah.
curator and artist to co-exhibitors.
Super excited for that. So that will be opening Friday, April 1st from 4 to 6 p.m. Two other MFA grads work will be on display as well, Madeline Job and Molly Ott. And then the exhibition runs from April 2nd to 14th. Andrea will be in an exhibition in Austin, if you all do an Austin trip coming soon to get to some warm weather, which opens April 15th. It's a sculpture-based group show with 4 female artists, including lots of metal, foundry and forged glass, and sculpted stone. And this will be at the Icosa Collective in Austin. And then I personally have a sculpture right now that's up at the Arvada Center. It's called Synthetic Erosion, and it's up for the Art of the State exhibition, which will run through the end of March.
Great. Well, excited that there's stuff that we can look forward to for all the artists of Perception Shift. Wondering also, sort of as you move forward and continue making work, are there any other shows or projects in the studio or things that have sort of come out of this experience that you might want to continue exploring?
Yeah, like out of the curatorial practice. Yeah,
I guess both. Yeah.
I don't, so like this is so fresh for me right now. I think it's just going to bring such richness to my practice, but I don't know how, if I'm fully if it's fully, the dust has fully settled yet to know how that will work. Something like with speaking about how I've been working more outside lately, I've been working on a site-specific memorial to the Cowwood Forest up in near Cowwood Education Center. So that will be up and done this summer, and it'll be a permanent installation as a memorial to trees lost in the fire. And we will be hopefully doing a community-based event around it in the summer months.
Cool.
I'm part of a group at CU that connects community members, scientists and artists together, called Art Science Action Cohort. So I'm collaborating with a few members from that to select artists and scientists to lead workshops up there this summer to facilitate positive hope and resilience around the recent fires.
Cool. Gosh, we need more of that type of work, especially as fire becomes more a part of our reality. Awesome. Yeah, and also sort of wondering if there was any artist that didn't make it into Perception Shift because of the boundaries of this exhibition and just the Rough Gems program in general, but are there any other artists that for fans of this type of work and of this show that people should have on their radar?
Yeah, I think, for this type of work, there's an artist from Austin named Ender Martos, and he does a lot of really interesting works with synthetic fiber that really shift your way of seeing the forms. I also know of another artist that casts malleable fabric into iron. And so it really like shifts your way of thinking about fabric in a similar way to Natalie's pieces. And this is one of my mentors, Erin Cunningham, who is also in Austin as well. Yeah, those are two that are off the top of my head, but there's a few others that I think would come to me soon. Mm-hmm.
Well, that is all the questions that I have. I guess final plug. I know I already said that, but one more call for any final questions for Amy. And in the meantime, are there any other things you want to plug or shout out about the exhibition, or anyone you want to thank?
Yeah, I mean, thank you to all of the artists, Kimberley, Natalie, Hala, Andrea, Alli, for taking part in this exhibition. It's been amazing to work with you all. It's just really been a treat for me. So I'm super grateful for all of your time and hard work on all of these projects. Yeah, thank you to the Union Hall folks again. This has just been really like to reinstate an amazing experience. And yeah, I mean, I just have an amazing group of support at CU, so I'm super grateful for that too.
Yeah, we love the CU crew. They continue to provide us with amazing artists and curators, and it's been super fun getting to know all of these artists through your work. And I hope that this will lead to other opportunities for them in Denver and in the surrounding area to, at least for the, non-local ones, especially, to maybe kind of participate in more of the things that are going on around the city. So thank you so much for all your hard work. And just to wrap up, one more thank you also to our sponsors, the Colorado Community Foundation, the Andy Warhol Foundation for the Visual Arts, Colorado Creative Industries, and Bonfy Stanton as well. Couldn't do this without your funding, and it's so special throughout Rough Gems to be able to provide exhibition stipends for both the artists and the curators and cover exhibition costs so that these seedling little ideas can come to life. So thank you all for tuning in tonight. And yeah, thank you for sharing again with us. We'll be excited to see the recap of the Disaster Girl performance.
Super excited. And again, that's next Friday, the 4th. So
next Friday, the 4th. All right, well, we'll leave it there. If you need any more information about Perception Shift, you can visit unionhalldenver.org, and hope you all have a safe and lovely evening.
Thank you all for coming.